Hey everybody, Aaron here. Working on a project today, and I thought I would record a little bit of this because, believe it or not, I've been reading a lot here the last week online through the different forums, guys asking questions about how to resurface these blistered and peeling chrome snares. This happens to be a chrome over aluminum. Checked it, and I did a scrape check and all that kind of stuff, but not magnetic, so it's chrome over aluminum. It's an older acrylite. I've done stripped it all down. What I usually do is I put it, like I've answered in the forums, I put it in my bead blaster and I bead blast it with a glass bead, and I've had really great success with it. So that's what I'm going to do a little short video on, is kind of show the few steps and put it on my YouTube, and so some of you out there can see how it's done. Some use strippers and different things and all kinds of ways of going about it, but here's my take on it. So I just happened to have one of these on the bench this week that I'm building for a friend of mine. So here we go. The first thing that I do is I prep the inside. The inside of this one here was really nice. So I'm just blue taping it on the inside to keep the bead blast beads from getting in there and scraping it up. So all I'm really paying attention to is the bearing edge, getting the chips off of the bearing edge, and the outside. And prior to all this, I did do a little test area here, and I'll try to put that up there. Little test area there to just kind of see how it was behaving in the bead blaster. And what I did is I'm putting it on my bench, keeping it off. So I do some, this one here is a 5.5. I didn't even check it. It's a 5 by 14. So I put some 2-inch tape, tucked it up underneath the roll of the bearing edges as best I can up in there, and you see I just have a strip here left on the bead detail to cover all that up. So I'm going to finish that up, and then we're going to go ahead and go over to the bead blaster and let you see a little bit of that. All right, we're back. So I pulled it out of the bead blaster here just to kind of show some progress on it in a better light and different camera. So there's what we're getting from the bead blaster. Okay, so I need to probably stay a little bit longer on there. When I'm done with this, it'll be ready to powder coat. It'll be ready to, you know, and have it re-chromed. You can do the old school swirls on these. It's just basically you're prepping it to whatever it is you're wanting to do with it. So I found the bead blaster gets that flaky, old, nasty chrome off really well. So before and kind of after. I just need to spend a little bit more time going at it, but it gives you the idea. And like I said in the beginning, there's just been a lot of questions on the different forums on Facebook and different other forums that I follow, questions from guys that have these peeling and blistering chrome acrylites. What do you do with them? And some people don't do anything with them, and that's great. But for those of you that want to go ahead and tackle it and have a bead blaster or have a friend that does or whatever, there's that for you. Okay, a little more follow-up. So where I'm at now with it is I've done everything that I can do with the bead blaster. We're still a little bit pitted, okay? Like I said, I'm building this drum for a friend, and we're kind of going with a rat rod look for this drum. And so next thing I'm going to do is like I said, it's still a little rough, all those kinds of good things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my air die grinder and start feathering this a little bit and play around with it and kind of see, you know, doing a design, different things like that, just kind of playing around with it at this point, just kind of see what I want to do. I might even go back and just bead blast the bead roll and maybe highlight the bead roll with, you know, maybe painting it. Not sure yet. I got a bunch of different ideas with this rat rod project, but the main focus of this video is what I'm doing with the bead blaster, and then I'll do a little bit with this and kind of show you what that looks like to kind of add a little extra to this video also. Okay, so we'll keep going. All right, so I've moved outside now on my outside bench so I can do some of this die grinding with the air grinder. I have 120 grit pad on there, and as you can see, I've kind of started just taking that down and making sure not to dig into the bearing edge. In a circular motion, and I'm staying off of the bead in the middle of the drum right now, and I'll address that where I can just kind of go and work at it. Might mostly do that by hand with sandpaper. But I'm just slowly working at those bumps. And then once I kind of get going, I can work a pattern, all those kinds of things into it. But I'm not too worried about a pattern or where I'm going with it on the aesthetics of it yet. So there's kind of where we're going with getting that smoothed out. Now, you don't have a bead blaster, you could just go straight to the die grinder, and that's been talked about in the forums also, is just using a die grinder. So I have the bead blaster for a bunch of other things I do with acrylic and other things, and it works good on getting that initial layer and everything off. So that's kind of the idea of what's been discussed and put out there in forums, and that's kind of my take on it. So hopefully that's helpful to some of you. And there we are. Okay, so we're back outside again. Anyway, got rid of the air grinder. Some of us might have a electric die grinder. I've used this plenty of times on this to do the same thing. I have a 80 grit installed on here, 60 grit. Move through your grits in the same way, and to achieve that same kind of, look of removing the flakes and everything else. So I'll show a little of that. Again, some 80 grit starts to remove all that and starts to smooth it out again so that you can start your swirling. All right. So continuing with this snare drum, we did the bead blast and all those kinds of good things. I'm going to take you to the next. What I've chosen for the finish on this is no longer a bead blast finish. The bead blast got it all down, as you can see on camera. I've demoed the finish for the die grinder earlier in the video and things. So I'm going to show you this kind of rat rod old fish scale is what. And they're just done on the drill. And I've done a lot of trial and error, get it, as perfect as I can be. As you can see here in the split shot, I have all these different things that I've tried, so I'll just kind of walk through them. So what I ended up with, and the final product that I'm getting on this surface that I'm trying here, is these paint stripper attachments. Okay, paint stripper attachments. I'll hold it up there. Okay, this happens to be a 1-inch diameter. I got these off of and they're the roll lock or twist lock style, and I can show them up close here too on the other cam. But they're the roll lock, twist lock style, and this one works the best. Is it's nearly a half inch thick, so they're in it under the pressure of gas to conform with the curve of the snare shell and complete the round swirl mark. Okay, so that's where I ended up. I thought a 1-inch wire brush would do the trick, but under pressure it spread out. Okay,
Okay, so then I went with solution number 2, and I took some safety wire, stainless steel racing safety wire, and I safety wired it into a handle. And that got this kind of finish. I know it's kind of tough. It got that kind of finish. So again, it's tough, and I'll try to rotate it to see. But ultimately, it came out better with the paint stripper. Okay. I also did some other things. When I bought this 1-inch roll kit, it came with a bunch of pads. Some of them being these 3M, the bright type pad in various grits. They work okay, but there's not enough thickness to it to get it formed with here. The other thing I saw on there, and all these $20, so they were really inexpensive for trying. This was a Velcro kit. This is more for a Dremel, but I tried it on my drill press on really slow speed. This is a mildly soft cushion of kind of spongy plastic and Velcro, but even on the lowest speed, all it did Velcro apart and takes them right off. So again, I did the trial and error kind of for you, and like I said, the best one. There's some different grits of this. I'm not sure what the grit is, but there's like a purple one and some different ones. So I have some other different grits of this to play around with now that I've got the as I'm pushing down. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and chuck this in and showing it and how I'm kind of coming up with this pattern. And this is still that drum that I'm playing around with for my friend. This is, he's being patient and letting me play around and stuff. Kind of the idea is I'm going to fish scale the flats, and then I will mask it all off. This is the thought. Working theme is and then mask the finished fish scales all off really well, and then bead blast this to a nice matte, like I have working around on the rest of that bead blast. I ended up not liking that. Since this is a Ludwig, I'll go get some really nice pinstripe paint. I'll leave it taped off, and I'll probably pinstripe it in blue and olive for the Ludwig colors. I'll do something, and I'll show and post a finished product and things like that. So anyway, I kind of got the pattern established. I start basically a straight row, and then I kind of start offsetting from that. So you can kind of see on cam, trying to do the best without glaring with the lights I have set up here. But the last little set here, I'm kind of getting in there. I'm going to go ahead. This is the low speed on my drill press, and so I'm going to offset this one. And you're probably wondering how I'm holding this and do all this. I'll cover that after I show this. I'll show you how the other little thing I got going on, and just making sure it's centered, and start to see the smashing effect of it in the stripper pad. So now I'm just going to move over, and I'm just going to overlap it maybe a 1/4 inch into that circle, and the joining circle, there's a dead space in here. I'm just going to kind of overlap it. I'm not making a perfect row of overlaps. You can do that if that's what you like. I'm just making it very random. I have my drill press table loose so that I can move it as I need to, and pivot. And I have the snare drum mandrel holder here, and again, I'll talk about it more in just a little bit. And this is just medium to heavy pressure. You kind of get, and I just kind of go back and forth. If you restart your row back over here, you're going to have the same overlap all the time, right to left, right to left, right to left. And I just kind of alternate them, right to left, left to right. Sometimes I'll start in the center. I just kind of start looking at it as I'm doing it, and also realizing that you know, like where I'm at right now, a lug casing is going to be covering all this area up. So, you know, if you have to move something around, a lug casing hides something, that's, you know, that's all good. But that's all there is to this to get it, and it goes quick. And so this is another technique I use on these Ludwig shells that blister and the chrome's peeling off of them and everything. Again, some people powder coat them. I do that. I have a whole bunch of them that I've done in the past, but getting them bead blasted and having a bead blast finish and clear coating them or lacquering them, and then doing the fish scales on them. So it's just a little bit about that. So I'll go ahead and kill this. Hopefully that wasn't remarkably too loud. All right, so you know, there we are in the little view. Okay, so there's that. So I took the shell off so you could start to see what I got going under here. This is not 100% my idea that you see. I borrowed it. I borrowed it from R. David R. on YouTube. He made one of these, gave me the idea. I just started tweaking it a little bit more. This happens to be my 14 by 5, so that I got stacked layers of plywood here. And they're just shy of fitting in between the bearing edges and the roll flange and everything. So it just fits in there for a 5-inch Ludwig, Slingerland, any of that 5-inch will fit there with a little bit of room to shift it around. If you want to get it more precise, you just layer another piece of plywood. And then I have another one for a 5.5 and up to a 6. So I just have different ones, and all this is a 2x4 that is cut and notched in. Everything's all wood glued and everything. And these are not only great for what I'm doing here, which is all these repetitive circles and swirls, is it's great for if you have to sit and take dents out, because you have a nice perfectly curved surface to go ahead and work on your dents. The only thing I haven't made of yet is the opposite, the negative, the outside curve, so that I can set it down into that to work dents from the other direction. But I've shown different techniques that I use in other videos without making that. So those are some things that I'm working on, is the positive and negative of these, so that the shells will fit in there. So again, dents and things like that. I'll have to make a video of how I do these, but like I said, the general idea is cut the diameter. You can use a router, cut multiple circles, and then cut them in half, those kinds of things, stack them up, whatever you got in your wood shop to be able to do that. So that's the idea. And then you might be seeing some things on here that I did. This is some of the custom work that I'm doing. I know this might be very sacrilegious to, the hardcore guys, but I'm customizing this as a rat rod kind of look for them, and I'll follow up with some of the things I'm making and why I'm doing things like this. So there's an idea of how I'm doing swirls and, making this Ludwig live again without necessarily being powder coated or painted. So there we are, and I'll move on to the next item. All right, we're back at the bench, and I'm kind of going to put a wrap up on where I'm headed with this rebuild of this drum. And this video, basically, it started because of questions on the Facebook forums about what to do with a blistered shell. Well, I mean, I've covered that, but I've also been saying that I'm rebuilding this for a friend of mine. So I wanted to kind of show you near the finish line of the mock-up and things like that. And like I said, I can post finished stuff when I'm done, but I'm kind of touch on some things that I'm doing in with the mock-up. So friend of mine, okay, we went with a rat rod theme, and we also went with a life theme. I know that might sound kind of weird, but it's a rat rod feel, but in the theme of his life. So I have out here basically the jewelry and add-ons that are going to be with this drum. Of course, there's going to be some fine-tuning that I'm going to do with probably making gaskets for some of these things, so just to make sure that they don't rattle. And I'm going to end up using a premium leather like suede, okay, to cut out gaskets for some of these different things so that we don't have rattles and things like that. But I'm going to tackle those as we come. So anyway, let's talk about the basics of it. So the workings of it. So we'll start with the butt plate. So it's just your typical Ludwig butt plate. Okay. The only thing I did to rat rod it out a little bit is I bought all brass hardware, nuts, bolts, fasteners. This happened to be a Ludwig that did not have a backing bar, and so I bought some 1/4x1/4 stock, which is what these are from Ludwig, but they're steel, and I drilled and tapped the brass, and you got brass fasteners and nuts. So let me see if I can do a close-up for some of you. All right. So that's the brass is going to be the pop on all this silver, okay, all this aluminum look, chrome. So there's that. Nothing fancy there about his life. So the throw off, I did a complete rebuild on the throw off. Again, brass, the same brass nuts and washers and everything to match throughout the drum. And he's a hunter. So we used to hunt together and stuff. We haven't in years because he's up in Idaho and I'm here. But I went into my gun case and I pulled out some 30-06 rounds, spent rounds, and his grandfather is a CHP. So there's a 38 special on there from back in the day, spent. All I did with those is I cut them. I cut them at a 1/4 inch, and I used, what was it, 032 aluminum, and I just etched out, I used some 032 aluminum. This is where the Ludwig logo used to be on this throw-off, and so this fits in there where the plastic logo used to be, and that's what I'm soldering the bullets to, and then this whole thing is soldered to the throw-off. So customized it there for him there with the bullets and the connections to his family and things. So with the muffler, I removed the stock one, and he played baseball in high school. The band that he plays in is named after a famous baseball player, Killebrew, from up in Idaho. And I found this cool. It's not plaster. It's like a plasticine or whatever. I believe it or not, I found that at Hobby Lobby. It's a drawer knob, and all I did was on the lathe I recut a barrel nut and threaded it and everything. Again, same brass hardware and everything, and the throw off the muffler will go where I have it plotted out right here in its typical spot. And so the knob is now a baseball. Okay, so custom to his life. I took that same sheet brass, the 032 sheet brass, and those are his initials. On parts of this video, you've been seeing the cutout that I made right here in the bead. So to get this badge to lay flat, I had to remove the bead, and I did that very carefully by masking and cutting with a Dremel, and then hand filing everything to finish. And this is his initials with the same brass hardware. Now it lays nice and flat. And again, this is just sheet brass, like I said, and the initials are plasma cut initials. I have a source for being able to get different size and fonts of plasma cut steel letters. And so they're riveted on to like a rivet, and then they're soldered on from behind and all that kind of good stuff. So this is where the gasket material will come in, for possible rattles and things. And it will be a player. It's not just a showpiece. It'll be a player, and I'll make it to where it won't rattle. And we're going to see what it sounds like. It's a bit of an experiment that he and I are going on, and with all these extra holes that I'm putting in it too. So anyway, that's one of the handmade custom, all polished out and everything for that. Next is he's a hunter. So I found this really cool Leatherworks medallion of an elk, and the elk, like I said, I have it all laid out here. The hunting elk will go here. So I'm going to have to do the same thing that I did right here. I'll have to take the bump out. If I want it centered, I'll look and see. I might move it up. I'm still, like I said, in the layout phase. Again, another one of his grandparents was in the Navy, so I have the Navy medallion to put it in a different area. So there's that. Again, I have to finish this one, but it's a work in progress. This is the flat sheet brass. I have it all painters taped up because I'm working on it. Their family owned Chevron stations, and our family, my father worked at his grandfather's station. Anyway, a tie there. This will get soldered on and mounted. Again, a really cool shield thing for the family. And then he traveled and was on the road a lot. So he sent this to me, my friend, he sent this to me because I asked him anything he wanted to throw in. This is an old luggage tag, and this is actually going to go inside the drum as kind of a hidden secret kind of thing, where the Ludwig badge that goes here, I'm going to put it on the inside opposite, like you would see the date stamp on them from the factory. I'm going to put it on the inside, and that's going to be kind of a hidden secret. And then finally, speaking of the badge, I took the badge off and I polished the badge all out. I know some of this stuff to the pure folks, that's sacrilegious and all that kind of stuff. But, to each their own. And, this is a rat rod kind of theme we're going with. Anyway, I polished it all out. Haven't finished the back of it, but there's all polished out. Polished out the grommet, so it's all correct. And then this is how Moss Manufacturing, that's me. So I take the Ludwig shape on these particular ones, and I sheet brass the Ludwig shape, and I send it back. So this drum will be done in March of 2021. Moss Manufacturing, it's all printed on there and all cool. So he knows for him and all that kind of good stuff. Just as a side note, all of these medallions that I've made and stuff, they're all curved to the shell. I do that. I'll just do a quickie here. This is an old piece of 14-inch marching snare. I think this is an old pearl marching snare, 14-inch, and I cut it up, and I use my arbor press, and I chuck it up in here, arbor press it little bit by little bit. Basically, a old 5B drumstick right down the center to start pushing the curve into it and get the shape so that it'll lay nice and curved on there. I don't have a slip roller, otherwise I would have just ran it through a slip roller. So yeah, that's a little bit about that, and that's what I'll have to do with the chevron badge back here. But that's kind of a finished where the theme of this is going and what I'm doing with all these cutout holes that you might have seen on camera, and what the heck is he doing. But yeah, hopefully I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. Like I said, I may leave this bead blasted, or I might pinstripe it with the blue and olive Ludwig colors, something, the whole pinstripe to tie in a rat rod look kind of thing, that kind of stuff. So anyway, and then all these marks here, how I'm laying it out here, painter's tape, and all my different descriptions. So hopefully that covers a lot of different questions that have come up in the forum. So I hope this video helped you with some ideas on tackling that pitted shell, whether it be a Ludwig or a Slingerland, or even just an import shell that's just all peeled and junky. Pick a shell. So I hope that gives you some ideas and some projects to think about. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that alert button.